Hey guys, MetaXX Beats here. Even though Smash Ultimate had its last DLC and updates over a year ago, I still want to make content about this series. And to be frank, there are a lot of video ideas that I could pull from this series. For example, for today's subject, something pretty new for this channel, a moveset builder. Not sure if I would make this a one-off or a series, probably depends on how I feel, but this is something that I always wanted to do for a while now. Though, admittedly, I've been having a hard time on what character to tackle, whether it was a reimagined Dark Samus, or Soul Bad Guy, or Ragna, or hell, maybe even Ryu Hayabusa. However, I've decided to go with one of my personal favorite fighting game characters of all time.
No egg, no ear, no nose, no mouth, no body, no mind, no shape, no shape, no egg, no ear, no nose, no mouth, no body, no mind.
One of, if not, the most unique fighting game characters of all time, the leader of a thieves guild known as the Manji Party Clan, Yoshimitsu. Now, when it comes to this ninja, he is no one to be reckoned with. Honestly, one of my personal favorite characters within not just the Tekken series, but the Soul Calibur series as well. Pretty much making him represent two franchises, which is honestly an idea that I think not just would be unique, but also honestly would be cool as hell. Though, I also think that he would also probably have one of the most unique playstyles if he was ever implemented in Smash, and I do think that a lot of his moves could actually translate pretty well in Smash. But enough beating around the bush. Let's get building that move list. But before I get to the moveset itself, I feel like it's best if I give a basic rundown of what Yoshimitsu as a playable character would be all about. Yoshimitsu, in all the games that he was present in, has always been the trickster character, or the rule breaker. Essentially a character that requires a lot of creativity and a lot of skill to master. Pretty much the name of the game with this character is to get in the opponent's head. Though thanks to the nature of this character, some players might find him a little too hard to handle if they want a more basic or straightforward playstyle. But for the players who want a more trickier and unpredictable playstyle that messes with the opponent's head, this is the playstyle for you. It just depends on how you use his tools is the key to victory. Now when it comes to his moveset, I would be basing his moveset mostly on his Tekken outings, but I will have a lot of Soul Calibur inspiration sprinkled in there also. Though I also kinda used Kazuya as sort of a blueprint for his moveset. Well, again, not just because he's from Tekken also, but also because I feel like this could help flesh out Yoshimitsu's overall game plan. For Yoshimitsu's standard jab combo, it would be the 10-hit combo, pretty much like Kazuya, though obviously different as you can see here. Though it would function pretty much similarly with you hitting the A button 10 consecutive times, or you can just hold the A button until that final decisive hit. Though press A and have a slight pause before pressing A again, and you get the Seiken Dohari, a 2-hit combo that does a decent amount of knockback with the second hit. For Yoshimitsu's dash attack, he would do the Fubuki, which is present in both Tekken and Soul Calibur, though it would be mostly based on the Soul Calibur iteration, as it would be an actual dash attack where he lunges his knee towards his opponent. Press the forward direction twice and the A button and you get the solar kick or reverse cartwheel, whatever you prefer. But press the A button 3 consecutive times and you get the solar kick shark attack, which is present in both Tekken and Soul Calibur. A forward moving 3-hit combo that ends with a kangaroo kick, which has very great knockback. However, it is very punishable if whiffed. Though after the first solar kick, but you press the direction behind you and press the A button twice again, you do the reverse solar kick shark attack. You could use this move if you want to hit your opponent with a solar kick and then get away from your opponent, or if it's a free-for-all and you have another opponent behind you. His up tilt would be his rising knee, present in both Tekken and Soul Calibur, where he'll lunge his knee forward and do a decent amount of upwards knockback. Now this is where the Kazuya influence will come from, where he'll have diagonal tilts. Kurama Ito being his up forward tilt, a lunging sword slash that hits from below. In contact, this will trip up the opponent a bit, giving Yoshimitsu enough time to do a quick attack. His forward tilt would be the Oni kick, or the ballerina spin as it's called in Soul Calibur, where he would do a spinning kick that moves forward towards the opponent, doing decent knockback. Tilting the down forward and pressing the A button twice and you get the woodcutter. But hold the A button on the second attack and he would move forward and charge his slash. However, it can be cancelled by shielding. His down tilt would be that same slash, and just like with the previous attack, he could charge it by holding the A attack as he starts to move forward and charge his devastating death slash. Though you could cancel the charge by shielding. Though I could actually see this as a decent edge guarding tool if you're in the corner of the stage and your opponent is trying to recover. His down back tilt is the Stone Fist. By pressing the attack button 6 consecutive times while you're in this tilt, you do the spinning fist attack. Though just like in the games, after the 6th hit, you'll get dizzy and fall down. Although this could bring up some openings for some other attacks, but I'll get to that a little bit later. Though his back tilt would be Slap You Silly, which would be in a similar vein as the previous attack, except the hitbox would be much higher. After the 6th consecutive spin, he would again go dizzy and lay down. Triple roundhouse combo will be his up back tilt. Pressing the A button 3 consecutive times in this tilt will give him 3 roundhouse kicks, with the 3rd kick having decent knockback. Just like Kazuya, he's also gonna have crouching exclusive moves, Parting Grasp being his down crouching move, which can be a decent move to stop direct approaches. Kneecap would be Yoshimitsu's forward crouching move, which would trip up the opponent a bit as Yoshimitsu ever so slightly moves forward. His back crouching move will be the Manji Spin Low Kicks, will be in a similar vein as his back tilt and back down tilt. Again, after the 6th consecutive spin, Yoshimitsu will go dizzy and lay down. Though I was thinking of another option of attack where Yoshimitsu would do a front kick during any of these spinning moves. This could be activated by having a slight pause before holding the A button. This could be used to trip up your opponent or to have a decisive hit. While rising from his crouching position, press the A button 4 consecutive times to do the door knocker. Although doing moderate knockback with the 4th hit, it makes a good tool for approaching opponents. Moving on to chargeable smash attacks, we got the Suka Splitter as Yoshimitsu's front smash. His upwards chargeable smash will be the Shrine, which would do great upwards knockback, especially in high damage. And for Yoshimitsu's down chargeable smash would be the Samurai Cutter, which would have Yoshimitsu spin around, hitting both sides. The front side doing more knockback. Moving on to aerials, Yoshimitsu's neutral aerial is the Moonsault Slayer, which would have Yoshimitsu spin around, turning it to a spinning hitbox, with the final spin doing the most knockback. Helmet Strike, or Quarter Moon as it's called in Soul Calibur, will be his forward aerial, which will have a downwards diagonal knockback while the opponent is in the air. His back aerial will be avoiding the puddle, which would have probably the best knockback out of any of his aerials. Scowling Moon God will be his up aerial, which would have the best upwards hitbox out of any of his aerials. And finally we have the Guillotine Crow Kick as his down aerial, which would be sort of a dive kick move which would have a spike hitbox with the final second hit. Moving on to special moves, Yoshimitsu's neutral B will be Poison Breath, which, contrary to its name, wouldn't have a poison effect, but would have a paralyze effect, similar to Zero Suit Samus's stun gun. However, holding the B button will get you in this state of bad stomach, which would delay the poison breath. However, remaining in the bad stomach stance for too long and Yoshimitsu would start to take damage, similar to Kirby and DDD's chargeable hammer special moves. However, pressing the A button during the bad stomach state, you'll do a back flip kick. Although it wouldn't really be that damaging or have that much knockback, it would be a great keep away tool. Sword Smash, or Yomigaki as it's called in Soul Calibur, will be a side B if you tap the B button. This quick strike will give a little bit of hit stun to your opponent. However, press the B button while you hit your opponent and you do the Yomigaki nuke. This will not just do more damage, but it'll also pass through the opponent and it'll render them immobile, wide open for a follow-up attack. Now here's something unique to Yoshimitsu. He'll have a back special. Pressing back B and he'll do the sword stab. A devastating sword stab that'll probably do the most damage and knockback out of any move that Yoshimitsu has in his moveset, with the cost of it taking so long to charge. However, during this charge you could guard to cancel it, or press B during the charge to do the windmill. This move is best used psyching out any incoming opponents who think that Yoshimitsu's out in the open. Although there is a much quicker, though less damaging second option. By pressing the A button during the charge, you could do the face splitter. What it lacks with its damage and knockback, it excels with its speed and unpredictability. The next move will probably have the most creative liberty out of any moves for this moveset, and that is the Manji Dragonfly. This will function similarly to King K. Rool's up B, where he will ascend up using his helicopter blade, and the helicopter blade itself would also have a hitbox. However, press A during the Manji Dragonfly, you do the Dragonfly Blade, or Deathcopter, which I guess is more appropriate to call it thanks to the nature of this move. Yoshimitsu will plummet downwards while doing a sword swipe. I am also thinking that this move would also spike if you're closer to Yoshimitsu and also airborne, though using this move really recklessly could lead to you losing one stock. Now there's a bit more to go through when it comes to Dragonfly, but before that, if you tap down B, you do the flee stance, and while in this stance you could actually move around. They'll tap down and you do the flee dagger, which would kinda serve as sort of a spot dodge. They'll press any upwards direction and you do the jumping flee, which would actually do damage in contact with any opponent. They'll do the dashing motion, you do the running flee, which also does damage to opponents. They'll press the shield button and you do the flee roll, which functions like a regular roll dodge. They'll press the B button and you do the skull splitter, which would do upwards knockback. Although short range, you'll make up for it with its speed and a decent amount of knockback. Though alternatively, you could do the rolling spark by pressing the A button, which is a forward-moving sword swipe from below. And yes, you could do the Manji Dragonfly by pressing up B while you're in the flee stance. However, holding down B and you do the Indian stance. Not just making his hitbox more smaller, but he would also gradually get just a tiny bit of health over time. I know giving a character a healing move might be risky, but I make sure to have it not be over 1%. Plus, I was thinking of more moves that would actually give Yoshimitsu himself more damage, but I'll get to that a little bit later. They'll press back forward or shield and you do the vacuum dance, or warp as it's called in Soul Calibur, which would function as this stance is equivalent to a dodge, and it would also bring Yoshimitsu back to his neutral position. They'll press the B button twice and you do the Indian Stance Cannon, which is a forward moving attack that would do a decent amount of knockback. Though alternatively, if you press the A button, you do the Warp Rolling Spark, which would be a more quicker sword slash from below, though it wouldn't really do that much knockback in comparison. And you could do the Manji Dragonfly while you're in the Indian stance as well. Though if you press down B while you're in the Indian stance, you could do the flee stance. Though press down B while you're in the flee stance and you could also do the Indian stance. Though you could also do these stances while Yoshimitsu's knocked out. By tapping down B, you do the flee stance. By holding down B, you do the Indian stance. Moving on to grapples, Yoshimitsu's front grapple will be Wheels of Hell. A forward-moving grapple where Yoshimitsu spins himself and his opponent while he slams them in the ground. Yoshimitsu's back grapple is the Oni Killer, where he flips his opponents behind him and then gives them one swift stab. Yoshimitsu's down grapple is the Sword Face Smash, where he smacks his opponents with the back of his sword. And finally, his up grapple is the Tornado Drop, where he does a spinning pile driver to his opponents. Though, just like Kazuya before him, he will have special command exclusive moves. By pressing the grapple button while doing the Hadouken motion, you do the Soul Siphon. This grapple will have Yoshimitsu draining the life out of his opponents while healing himself. Though if the opponent presses the grapple button when Yoshimitsu grabs his opponent, then it'll have a reverse effect of Yoshimitsu losing health while the opponent gains health. The same effect will happen if you keep holding forward during the command, which then turns it into Soul Possession. They'll do a backwards Hadouken motion while pressing the grapple button and you do the Rainbow Drop. What you see is what you get with this grapple, though I advise you to be careful when doing this in the corner of a stage, unless you wanna risk it all. Do the Hadouken motion, or I should call it quarter circle, and A, and you do the Poison Wind. They'll press the A button twice and he does the Steel Wind, where he does a flipping kick maneuver in quick succession twice. They'll press back during the maneuver and Yoshimitsu will hop back. They'll press B after the first flip kick and he does the kangaroo kick afterwards, which isn't as quick but does more knockback. And you could do the Flee, Indian Stance, and Dragonfly with their respective buttons after the first Poison Wind. Press the front and quarter motion or the Shoryuken motion and press A and you do the Gehosan, a far-reaching rising slash move which does more knockback and damage if you're closer to your opponent. They'll do the same motion and tap the A button and you do the Flashing Steel, a quick sword slash that'll leave your opponents vulnerable after the hit. They'll do the same command and tap the B button and you do Confusion. This maneuver will have Yoshimitsu turn his back on his opponent, which you might be wondering why would you want to do that? Well, if you hold the B button and then you do... Now I'll admit, I was going back and forth on if I should even include this move in this moveset, considering the nature of this move and how grisly it looks in comparison to other moves in the similar nature in Smash Bros. However, I could at least probably compare it to Ridley's down B in a way, though not really to his opponents, but to himself. Though with all that being said, hypothetically, let's say this move did make it in. This stab to the gut will be high damage, probably his most damaging move out of any of his movesets, with the cost of his own health as well. They'll press the shield and the B button at the same time, and you do the Harakiri motion on itself without turning around. I should also mention that this animation will also have Yoshimitsu laid down in the ground after it's done. This next move is more of a novelty move, Soul Stealer, by pressing down taunt. It would have a small hitbox, little to no knockback, and very minuscule damage, but it's more of a novelty move like a lot of taunt moves are. I was gonna talk about this move in the taunt section, but I felt like it could somewhat have some use during battle. Maybe. Though just like Kazuya, Yoshimitsu will have his Rage Drive. Do the Shoryuken motion and press the A button, and he does a much stronger version of the Flashing Steel. Yoshimitsu would have to be over 100% health to even be in the Rage state, and to even do this move, but it would have amazing knockback. Another move Yoshimitsu could do during Rage state is the Shoki Gohensa. In mid-combo, do the Shoryuken motion and press A, and you do this more faster version of the Gohensa. This next one I was debating whether or not I should include this one or not, and that is the Spinning Invade as Yoshimitsu's dodging. This one is gonna be a weird one, probably the weirdest idea I have out of anything that's shown in this video, and that is the fact that Yoshimitsu would take damage during this dodge roll, but he would also be invulnerable during the dodge roll, 100% of the time. However, if you do it consecutively, Yoshimitsu will get dizzy and lay down. I was gonna give him a normal dodge roll at first and have this be like the hold guard and press B kind of maneuver, but I actually do like the whole risk versus reward kind of idea that this maneuver has, and also the fact that this could encourage the player to do more of Yoshimitsu's other movement and dodging mechanics that he has in his kit already. And finally we have the final smash, which would be the Rage Art from Tekken 7. However, if Yoshimitsu has a Soul Calibur outfit, he will do the Ghost Thief Funeral from Soul Calibur 6. After seeing that Cloud was given 2 final smashes depending on what costume he's wearing, I thought it would be cool to have Yoshimitsu do the same. And also the startup animation will be the Rage Art no matter what final smash he's doing. Next will be the taunts and winning animations, which I won't be speaking when I show these, since I feel like these are self-explanatory. Now we move on to the costumes, and this is a very interesting topic when it comes to Yoshimitsu, since if you don't know, Yoshimitsu, for the most part, always wears something different in each installment of all the games that he's in. So what I plan to do is to have each 8 costume be a different costume that he wore throughout both the Tekken and Soul Calibur series, 4 being from Tekken and 4 being from Soul Calibur. His default costume will be his Tekken 7 look. I'd figured it'll make sense to have his most recent look from Tekken be his default. His second Tekken costume will be his most iconic look, the Tekken 3 costume. This is the look he had in many other games as well, like Tekken Tag Tournament, Street Fighter Cross Tekken, and even as an unlockable costume from Tekken 5 Dark Resurrection. I was tempted to have this be his default costume, but I decided to settle with what I did here. And his third Tekken costume will be his Tekken 5 look. I think it'll be a nice primary yellow costume, well, technically it's gold, but same difference, and I think that Tekken 5 is a pretty iconic game on itself, so I feel like having some representation of that game would actually make a lot of sense. And his final Tekken costume will be his Tekken Tag Tournament 2 look. I don't really have much to say about this one. I think it'll be a nice primary red costume, and I do think that, thanks to the nature of the tag games, I think it's just kind of a fitting costume. And now we move on to the Soul Calibur costumes, and one other tidbit I want to mention, not just his final smash would change, but I was also thinking that the hand that he would hold the sword would also change, which in terms of gameplay wouldn't change anything. It's just that now his back would be turned if he's looking up front at his opponents, if he's in the left side of the screen, and his opponent is like at the right side of the screen. Though if that would be a little too hard to program for our hypothetical developers, then just forget what I just said here. But anyways, his first Soul Calibur costume will be his Soul Calibur 6 look, which I just want to say, I love this design, so I have no problems with this being his first Soul Calibur costume in here. His second Soul Calibur costume will be his Soul Calibur 2 default look. I think this is actually a pretty unique look, considering that Yoshimitsu hardly wears purple as a primary color, and I can't really find a good primary blue costume for Yoshimitsu, but I think this can make a good compromise. His third Soul Calibur costume will be a Soul Calibur 4 look, which at first I wasn't really going to include this until I realized how seemingly loved this costume is, considering that I see a lot of mods of Yoshimitsu that feature this costume primarily. And his fourth Soul Calibur costume will be Yoshimitsu II from Soul Calibur 5. Despite how I feel about Soul Calibur 5, I think this is an amazing design for Yoshimitsu, and I do love its orangish red color palette as well. Now at first I wasn't really going to include a stage since I feel like the Mishima Dojo would work fine, but I was thinking of one Soul Calibur stage that could actually work really well with Yoshimitsu, and that is the Water Labyrinth from Soul Calibur 1. This would not just be Yoshimitsu's stage from Soul Calibur 1, but it would also make for a good reference to how in Soul Calibur, there is usually always a stage where there's a raft moving along a river. And in terms of Smash Bros, it would be a fairly simple stage, where it would be a platform in the middle of the screen moving along a river. Pretty much be kinda similar to the pirate ship stage, though it would be a simple raft as a flat surface instead of a whole ship. So really the only gimmick here would be the running water from each side of the raft, with the left side dragging you in the blast zone, while the right side will drag you away from the blast zone, in a similar pace to the pirate ship stage. Though unlike the pirate ship stage again, you wouldn't be instant killed if you hit the raft. Even though I think that Yoshimitsu's chances on making it into Smash Bros are slim at best, and I think if they include an other fighting game rep from Namco, it would have been Nightmare from Soul Calibur, which I also think is a very amazing choice. I just think that Yoshimitsu would have made a very unique choice, from his costumes and him representing two franchises, and for how bizarre his moveset can get. I think he would have made a very nice character to see in Smash Bros, especially since he already has that crossover aspect to him. But with all that being said, I think this concludes our move list builder of Yoshimitsu. Thank you everyone for watching, and I'll admit, I actually wanted to finish this before Halloween and upload it in Halloween, but I didn't finish it in time, so I guess you could consider this a pseudo late Halloween video. I don't know, it wasn't necessarily planned, but I thought I could have pulled it off, and well, it didn't pan out, but I'm glad that I uploaded it in general. So, again, thank you all for watching. I think that's all I gotta say about this. Not sure when I'm gonna do another one of these. Who knows who it's gonna be next. Who knows, maybe even Nightmare / Siegfried as an Echo Fighter, or some other character. It's whoever I feel like I want to do. But that's all I gotta say. Anyways, this has been X Beats. I'll see you guys next time.